Hello everyone, it's time to talk scary kid movies. Ooh. Now, before I get into talking about these are movies that scared you as a kid, like straight up terrified you. And they may not be good, they may not be great, some may be good, but at the end of the day, they all have one thing in common. They scared the crap out of us as kids. Before I start, I want to give some honorable mentions, some that aren't really scary the whole movie, but there are scary parts. So Pee-wee's Big Playhouse, one major part, Large Marge, the truck scene, scared pretty much every single kid that ever existed in the world. Probably will for the rest of time until it's out of the collective consciousness of the world. I remember watching Pee-wee and being like, man, I love this movie. And then that scene happened. I was like, hey! A few others, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, just the way they're designed is kind of creepy, but at the same time endearing. I mean, they're not as scary as some of the others I'm going to talk about, but it definitely is, a little creepy. And along those same lines as Paranorman, it's not really like super scary, but it's got like zombies and stuff like that and monsters. So, and the undead. So some of that could be a little jarring for a kid to watch and be like, I don't like this. And then of course, Monsters, Inc. I mean, the opening scene with the scares and everything like that, that is scary, but over time, it just like, you get used to it and then it's not that scary. And then I've heard really good things about Wendell and Wild, which I think is produced or written, but Jordan Peele's involved in some way. And I have not had the chance to watch it yet because my kid's not old enough, I think. So I'm going to wait a couple more years to watch it with her. But I've heard really, really good things. And so, yeah, there's countless movies like this where there's one specific scene that's really scary. We've talked about Willy Wonka, obviously, back in the day. But I'm going to go over 5. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 movies that I've picked that I think throughout are scary kid movies. So these are movies that you probably want to show to your kid probably when they're 9 or 10. But some of these, they have an exception that younger kids can watch and be okay after you like prep them for the scary parts. And I'm going to start off with Beetlejuice because my daughter, Sophie, she has watched Beetlejuice with me. I prepped her for the snake scene. I prepped her for just Beetlejuice in general. And now she loves Beetlejuice. She loves the scene where he turns into a carnival. Just everything about this movie is eerie in a way that as a kid you're scared by, but as you get older, you appreciate it for its weirdness and how cool it is at being weird. Michael Keaton obviously does a fantastic job, but Winona Ryder is like playing this woe-is me teenager. I mean, we were all emo teenagers at one point. So it's just really great. And obviously Tim Burton in the 80s was just crushing it. I already talked about Pee-wee, Beetlejuice, and then he does Batman. So he really knows how to do, well, I don't know if he can do it these days, but back then he definitely did the creepy stuff really well. At one point making it creepy while also keeping it like lighthearted. And I think that's why people really attached to him as a director for the longest time. And I mean, it's Beetlejuice. Another one I want to talk about that it's creepy because the CGI in it, and it's like the Polar Express, they had uncanny, just like the humans did not look real. Monster House also has that same type of vibe. And obviously it's about a house that is a monster. So that's of course going to be creepy, but it was directed by Gil Kenan, who's doing the new Ghostbusters movie. And it was written by Dan Harmon, who, as we know, has done Rick and Morty and Community and all that stuff. But Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg's production companies teamed up together to make this movie. So Spielberg is like the master in making like scary movies that are for kids and for adults. I mean, Jaws, it's probably for older kids, But at this, I mean, I watched it when I was like 9 or 10, and it was creepy, but I didn't like feel scared at any point. And Monsters House sort of balances that line where it's like, yeah, it's a scary kid movie, but also it's really fun to watch. I think younger kids could probably watch this and be okay as long as you prep them. Please prep them, because Coraline, which is a Henry Selick movie, who did Nightmare Before Christmas, also another good one, is about a girl who goes into an alternate dimension and everyone has buttons for eyes. It's a little more complicated than that, but I think it's a really great movie. It's about family, you know. Everything about family, I think, is just a good thing to watch with your kids, because you get that sense of camaraderie. And as long as your kid is prepped for the button eyes, I think they'll be okay. There's a talking cat. It's the stop motion animation is like, it's really well done in a way that it feels uneasy, because you're going into this alternate dimension, and there's just like this creepy character as it's like running the show. It's just really, 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 really great. I prefer Nightmare Before Christmas over Coraline, but I think more people need to watch Coraline because it's just that good. And the voice acting in it is really good. I can't remember any of the characters. I know it's based on a Neil Gaiman book or comic book. I can't remember right now. But I watched it several times, and it's good every time. Another one that I want to talk about is The Witches, both the 1991 and the 2021. They're both based on a Roald Dahl story. The first one has Angelica Houston and Rowan Atkinson, and the makeup in that by itself is creepy, scary, just it reminds me of this other movie, which I'm not recommending for kids, but it's Legend with Tom Cruise and Tim Curry, and Tim Curry plays like this devil-like character. It has Witches from 1990 has similar practical makeup effects, and so I think The Witches is great to watch, that one. I've not seen the 2021 with Anne Hathaway, but I've heard mixed reviews on that. But for sure, 100%, the 1991 with Angelica Houston and Rowan Atkinson. It's creepy, it's scary. Your kid's gonna get scared by it. It's a great Halloween watch. I know we're at the end of summer, basically, almost. So we're in Halloween mode now, so why not? Last but not least is Return to Oz, the unofficial sequel to The Wizard of Oz. You know, there was The Wiz, which is just like a remake, but this is an unofficial sequel, and Dorothy goes back, and the Yellow Brick Road's destroyed, and all types of other stuff. And instead of, you know, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, you get Jack Pumpkinhead, which is probably the worst designed thing I've ever seen in my life. Watching it as a kid, I was like, man, that's bad. And it has not aged well. But then you also get TikTok, which is supposedly the first instance of a robot in any fictional type of thing. But it is funny that it's called TikTok, and now we got an app called TikTok. Not related whatsoever. But the thing that is most creepy about Return to Oz, and I think everyone will agree, is the Wheelers. There's just a group of people that have wheels for arms and feet and arms. And it's terrifying. It's super terrifying. There's more terrifying things in this, but that was the most terrifying for me as a kid. I didn't really turn off a lot of movies that scared me as a kid. I sort of just like powered through, but Return to Oz is one of the few I was like, I don't like this. It does not make me feel good. And I had nightmares that night about the Wheelers, and they still disturb me to this day. Yeah, it's just, I mentioned Labyrinth. Like, Labyrinth had some scary stuff too that I had to turn off, but the Wheelers is something I can just like picture in my head that moment as a kid being like, disagree, don't want it. Dorothy has, instead of Toto, she has her pet chicken. It's just a very weird, creepy movie that is unsettling. I think I'm not recommending this just because it scared me, but I think if your kid is okay, like 12, I think it's probably the perfect time to show your kid this movie, because I think, well, it's not a good movie. I'm just saying it's a scary kid movie, and that's the theme of this video. There's plenty more out there, and we've talked about some other kid movies that have scary moments in it in another video, and those went from like rated G to PG to PG-13. So yeah, there are a whole wide variety of movies that are scary for kids. Some of these I would 100% suggest you watch, like Pee-wee's Big Playhouse, because most of it's not scary, just the large Marge scene. But there are countless others. Ghostbusters 2 is actually kind of, the opening courtroom scene's kind of scary. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that list. And if you watch Return to Oz, I told you. I warned you.
Un esercito di prodi